Hello, this is Miguel Concepcion, contributing writer and video producer for ZAM, here today to talk about my most recent hands-on impressions on Dark Souls 3. Fans of the Dark Souls series, and by sensible extension Bloodborne, have been awfully spoiled in the last 24 months. The franchise has seen an output that rivals annualized series like Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed. You won't be blamed for not associating these three properties in the same breath, but between Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, we've seen 3 expansions, 1 spin-off, an expansion to that spin-off, and a remixed port. I hate using the term embarrassment of riches, but there's no better way to describe these past 2 years. The act of firing up Dark Souls 3 hit me with a crowd of emotions. There's relief and surprise that the feeling of franchise fatigue is nowhere to be found. There's excitement and anticipation of playing the first Miyazaki-helmed Dark Souls in 5 years. And like every Souls sequel before it, a sliver of dread. The mild concern that maybe, just maybe, there will be a boss that will make me give up. It hasn't happened to me with this franchise. Yet. Its initial area, the Cemetery of Ash, sets the tone and stays visually consistent with the pervasive sense of desolation of the lands of Dark Souls. Ancient and irredeemable. The art direction is 1 part medieval, 5 parts otherworldly. It's that popular kind of game world you're happy only exists in digital form. The Souls franchise has always had an impressive sense of verticality, and developer From Software has just been getting better and better designing natural landscapes that rise and fall to complement the towers, stairs, and elevators that make up much of the man-made structures. The Undead Settlement, one of the areas of this demo, and the least flat locale, doesn't feel like a geographically sound place to have a thriving village. Instead, it's a hive of overhanging dread and menacing enemies, locals who accidentally walked off the set of Bloodborne and made a wrong turn to the village in Resident Evil 4. Even the 4 hours I was granted to play this demo wasn't enough to let me explore every alternate route and every camera-obscured nook, but I certainly wished I had the time. Getting lost is one of my favorite pastimes in Dark Souls. It can be suspenseful knowing how many creatures you'll come across, but there's the anticipation of surviving long enough to get the souls needed for a level bump or 2. And there's a realistic chance that liberal exploration will reward you with a new bonfire, which is always a haven to catch your breath, provided you've killed all the foes in your immediate area. One of the most gratifying experiences in Souls games is discovering shortcuts by reaching the opposite side of an otherwise one-way door. This 4-area demo had its share of such portals, but I only managed to discover a couple of them. It is through exploring that you find the essential items that give you a fighting chance against the game's most intimidating opponents. A single Estus flask can mean the difference between 5 attempts against a boss versus 20. Same goes for the crafting items you can get by chasing a troublesome yet adorable crystal lizard. Yes, Dark Souls fans can look forward to a ton of familiarity, from characters like the Onion Knight to the Safe Hub, which reprises the name Firelink Shrine. This kind of recognition obviously applies to the combat, which certainly makes Dark Souls 3 feel intimate and comforting. It's a pleasure to move and attack using the classic Dark Souls controls. But it shouldn't be surprising that combat tactics that work for past games can only take you so far in Dark Souls 3. The first boss, named Index Gungnir, might be a mere training boss, but it will give you no quarter if you rely primarily on the trademark Dark Souls forward roll as a dodge maneuver. It's exhilarating to know that new boss tactics will force me to adapt and possibly change my combat mindset. And while I didn't get a hang of the new two-handed ready stance combat, there was at least one opponent who showed me how devastating these attack modifiers could be. This balance of the familiar and the unknown is what practically defines most sequels, and makes me optimistic about Dark Souls 3. If anything, I look forward to the ritual receiving tough love from its roster of bosses, to let hardship and loss of souls harden me once again. To paraphrase Fight Club, I look forward to once again turn my ass from a wad of cookie dough into a fighter carved out of wood.